So I went on a camping trip last weekend and started having some problems with the flex hose, the flexible kind of, I guess, non-reinforced hose that feeds some of the plumbing. The PEX crimps started leaking, as they do with most of these. So I did some temporary fixes, got everything, to where we could go ahead and finish out our camping trip, but wanted to get into the camper and get everything changed out, and switched over to just traditional worm gear clamps. So in order to do that, I need to pull up the shower pan and get it out of the way, because all of the hoses and the tubing and everything is back in the corner, and it's almost impossible to get to. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to try to get all these screws out around the base. Looks like there's 4 of them, and try to cut some of that silicone loose from these pass-throughs, and then see how much this thing's going to wiggle. And of course, I've got to take off the supports and the shower rod and get that out of the way. And then I've got to get all the little rivets out that hold this back panel, this splash guard, in place. And then the fun starts with getting back here, if you can see that or not, but looks like there's some epoxy or something that's holding it in place back here at the back, and some other things that I'm going to need to break loose to see if this thing comes free. So anyway, we'll get started on that and we'll see how it looks. So I got the base screws out. They came out really pretty easy, actually very easy, no problems at all. And then the trim screws likewise came out really easy. Using a drill bit on the end of not a drill bit, but a driver bit on the end of a drill helps out quite a bit. So next thing I need to do is take off this piece right here. There is 1 screw, so that'll come down. This thing right here just lifts out, as you can see, so that'll should come down pretty easy. And once that gets out, then I will take I'll take a carton knife and go ahead and start cutting some of that silicone loose, and see if we can get that base free. It's to pull apart pretty easy. I mean, it's really not on there. I think the only thing holding on now is just gonna be the silicone. So what I'll do is I'll take this carton knife and run along these seams to cut this loose. And again, I'll do the same thing down here at each of these pass-throughs. Okay, so the shower curtain's off. We've got all the rails and base or connectors and everything off. Got the silicone cut loose from the sides, and you can see down there, it's kind of what if you've got to pull apart, because if anything's holding that up, then it's gonna keep it from flexing like that. So this corner where the epoxy was on the inside, stuff's not very substantial. I mean, it's pretty soft, so it's pushing in, so that really should not be an issue. So the problem with these little farts right here, these little rivets, man, you can't get at least with my regular pliers, I can't get a good bite on it, can't get a grip. So we're gonna put a pair of vice grips on these things to where I can really clamp down on it, grab a hold of it, and hope that these things will come out much easier. So just make sure when you're doing this, you're really supporting this back wall and really, holding on to it, because man, they are tight coming out of here. You really got to yank on them to get them out. This one more so than the other ones. These 2 in the back corner came out a lot easier, but man, these things, there we go. So you do have to pull on them pretty hard to get them out, but they will come out. But like I said, just make sure that you're really supporting this, that you don't pull this thing up from the wall unnecessarily and end up breaking, ripping that plastic. So now this feels like it'll pull away. I feel there is some double back tape, adhesive tape back here. So you have to pull that loose as you're kind of moving around this thing. And I got to go in there. I didn't cut that. Need to go back and cut that silicone off. So you just take your knife and put it right back here, and just take it slow. And not really trying to get in a hurry about this thing, just don't screw something up. So again, cut all this loose. Once you get that done, You can pull this back. Just be careful in case there's any sharp edges on this plastic, which there doesn't feel to be, but you can get in here and you can kind of pull this stuff loose from that shower pan. All right, so this thing appears to be free. You kind of see it moving back here in the back. So now the big chore is I've got to get the drain disconnected, and hopefully I won't have to take the toilet out, take any of that wood out on the sides. Hopefully it'll wiggle its way out of there, and get this drain disconnected. So disconnecting this P-trap really is not going to be that big of a deal. So what you want to do is disconnect it from the strainer from the tailpiece, and also back at the joint where it goes, dumps into the gray tank. So anyway, that's, like I said, that's pretty easy. Once that is done, it should be free, and I don't see anything else that's holding this thing up. And most of the stuff is hand tight, so it really shouldn't, like I said, you shouldn't have to put a pair of channel locks on it or anything to get it loose. I am going to put a towel down there because there will be a little bit of water that'll come out of that P-trap, and just to keep it from going down into the abyss there, and make it a little bit easier to clean up. All right, so here we go. So yeah, it's coming right on out of it without really too many problems, and it's flexible enough to where it just lifts on out. And the great thing is there are no screws in that back lip, so that's pretty cool. So anyway, yeah, pleasantly surprised. Not that big of a deal. Got this thing out. Now I can go ahead and get back there and start getting all that plumbing taken care of. So trying to get this thing out, there's a hidden screw back here that you can see on this one support. So some genius in his ultimate, wisdom, infinite wisdom, decided he'd put a screw in there where it's just about impossible to get to. So I am going to try to get that screw out, and then since this got a little bit deformed, I'll have to figure out a way to try to, support that. So if this thing doesn't slide around, I think that's probably all it is just an anchoring point. So the guy there is not a Phillips head. It is actually a square drive, one of these dudes here. So it's very hard to get back there and get any kind of angle on it. So obviously an offset screwdriver or a stubby screwdriver or anything like that's not going to work. So I actually had this little ratchet tool that is working, but man, it's going to be slow going. So there you go. Got that out. That was a little bit of a pain in the butt trying to get that thing in there and out, and you can see where it's screwed in to the floor. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some L brackets on this backside. Of course, I guess if I would have kept tugging on a little bit, and I tried to get a file, not a file, but a chisel underneath here and pry this thing up a little bit, but this is okay. So I can get this thing loose. I'm going to glue these. I'm probably going to go ahead and put angle brackets on each of these others just to stiffen them up a little bit. While I've got it out, might as well, not that big a deal. And there's the plumbing. So I'm going to go ahead and pull all this. I'm probably going to go ahead and replace these hoses all together, because when you go up and you pull this thing off the wall and you try to do any kind of repairs behind it, it is really, really tight, and you really can't pull that thing away. So I think I'm going to put a little, try to add maybe a little bit of extra lines to this. I will pull all these PEX clamps off and get those replaced, probably double up on them. But yeah, other than that, like I said, the leak that we had was dripping down here. It was actually running outside on the camper. I knew about it when I woke up the next morning. There was water on the ground out there, but I think all that feels pretty good. I don't feel any soft spots or anything, so I think we're probably good with all that. Plus, it's got the electrical in here for your tail lights and some other components, so that's there as well. So anyway, kind of a pain in the butt if you want to get in here and repair any of this kind of stuff, but it's really not that big of a job. Just takes a little bit of time, a little bit of patience, and you'll get to it. So I will get all this done and get this base shored up a little bit better, and get these clamps replaced and these hoses replaced, and then move on to the front of the camper. But that is what it is.